Hi again, everybody. My name is Greg Anderson, and this is the Good Timekeeping Show with Greg Anderson. Today, I'm going to follow up on a video that I made, over 2 years ago. I did an in-depth review on this watch here. Some people like to call this the Casio Royale because it looks like a James Bond watch from the 1980s, although this is not the same watch that James Bond was wearing in the movie. It was a Seiko watch. But anyway, these others are variations on the same thing. So this is an all resin version of this one. And these are, well, they all have the same features. It's just a different layout with the different modules. So I need to go in depth on these and just show you again how they're all working the same. These are very affordable watches and really have some great features that I think you'll enjoy. So these two, the base model number is AE-1200WH, and that uses module 3299. These over here, the base model number is AE-1000W, and they use module 3198. But the two modules have the same user manual because they do all the same things, like I said, with just a slightly different layout. All right, so let's just zoom in on these two and get into the details. As you can see in the main timekeeping screen down here, you have the time, hours, minutes, seconds, the date with the day of the week here. And of course, over here, same information, just laid out a little bit differently. Up here, there is an analog clock that's generated by LCD. And up here, same thing on this watch. Here is a little map of the world with the current time zone highlighted on that map. Again, you get that on both watches. And this is a little display up here that shows you the state of the alarms and the hourly signal. And I'll get into that, and you can see how it appears over here on this watch, over here on this one. So, all right, you're in the main timekeeping screen here. And what you have, this is kind of nice. If I push this button on the lower right side, I get a different time zone right here on my main timekeeping screen. In this case, I've set it to Sydney, and you can see if you look closely enough that the Sydney time zone all the way from the north to the south is highlighted there. So that's T2, or the second time zone in my main timekeeping screen. If I push this again, there's a T3, the London time zone, and you see that's highlighted there, and T4, the Moscow time zone, and you see how it's highlighted there. And as I've switched through these different time zones, my analog clock here remains at my main, first time zone I selected. It's always going to show the time zone from T1. So right now it's the Denver or Mountain time zone here in the United States. No matter what I do with this watch, change all the modes and go through all the different settings and whatever I'm doing with the watch, this is always going to show me that local time in that Denver time zone that I've selected. So I like that. I really like that. And here you can see that everything is the same on this other version of the watch. It's just in a little different layout. But again, I've got my different time zones I've selected here. They highlight, everything just works the same in a different configuration. Now, if I wanted to change the local time, my home time setting, I push this adjust button here, hold that down until things start to blink. And first thing I can do is I can actually just set the time. So if I use this button down here, it will reset to the nearest minute and zero out the seconds. Push this mode button here, and now I can select whether I want daylight saving time to be on or off, and that's an easy adjustment right there. Push the mode button again, and now I can change my time zone. So if I use this button down here, it's as though I'm going eastward on the map to change time zones, and if I use this one up here, it's as though I'm going westward on the map to change time zones for my my local time there. Push mode again, and now I can set hours and minutes, and I can go 12-hour or 24-hour display on my local time. Make that setting right there. And here I can set the date. So, current year 2021, that's adjustable, of course. And then the month and the day of the month. And here I can also choose whether I want the backlight to stay on for 3 seconds when I push the light button, or 1.5 seconds. So of course, depending on how often you use the light, if you use the light a lot and you set it for the full 3 seconds, then you'll drain the battery quicker than you would otherwise. If you set it to 1.5 seconds, of course, that's half as much time that the light will be on. and just your preference there. And then we're back to the beginning here where you can adjust the seconds. So one thing I like about this, well, you may have noticed if you've seen other videos on my channel, I like the watches that offer two features in particular really catch my eye. They are tough solar, so you have a watch that would automatically charge its own battery through exposure to just light. And the other one is atomic timekeeping built in, or an atomic time receiver built in. On a lot of the Casio watches, that's called multiband 6. So this watch doesn't have tough solar and it doesn't have multiband 6, but I still really like it because of all the other features that it has. Right down here you can see 10-year battery. So even though it doesn't have tough solar, how about a 10-year battery? You go 10 years without changing the battery. I think that's a pretty good compromise if you can't make it solar powered. And the other thing is, if you don't have atomic timekeeping built in or an atomic time receiver built in, it's still super accurate. I did an accuracy test on all of my watches just over a year ago, and these all did really, really well. According to the owner's manual, they're supposed to be accurate to within 30 seconds a month. I found they were much, much better than that. In fact, this one here actually performed one of the best of all my watches, only like 1 or 2 seconds a month. That's as far as this drifted from being completely accurate, and this one wasn't too much worse than that. I mean, just performed really, really well. So if you can have atomic timekeeping built in, how about accurate to within just a few seconds a month? And if you ever want to adjust that, it's really easy. All you do, hold down the adjust button, and when the seconds are flashing, just look at your atomic time source. And as soon as it reaches the point where you think, okay, it looks like it's right, just now it's a couple seconds off, but boom, now it's back to normal. And then push the button to make it stop flashing. And that's an easy way. If you do that, a couple times a month, this watch is going to stay really, really close to the right time. And I think you'll be satisfied with that, especially considering how inexpensive, how affordable this watch really is. Now, I'm still at the regular timekeeping mode here, but what I can do here is if I change it to show me one of these other time zones, and I want to change that, maybe make that so it's not Sydney, I can hold down and adjust now, and that will allow me to change to another time zone for T2. And then I can go to T3 and set that to some other time zone if I didn't want it to be UTC. I've got all those options right there. And also, let's say I set it to London and I want it to show daylight saving time. So I can press mode at this point while it's blinking. And then it allows me to use this search button down here to choose on or off for daylight saving time. So a very simple way to adjust that and make sure. Again, you're going to have to manually tell this when daylight saving time starts and ends, but it's a very simple, quick thing to do. So if you have to do that a couple times a year, hey, not so bad. Now, even though I've left it in T3 when I'm in my normal timekeeping mode, if I go through the other modes, let's say I want to use the stopwatch or alarms or things like that, and I come back to the main timekeeping mode, it always takes me back to T1, whatever I've selected. So in this case, it's Denver, which is always going to be in sync with this analog display up there. What if I wanted to stay on that other time zone all the time in this display, but still have my local Denver time zone up here on the analog display? Well, just go to mode here and get into the world time mode. So in world time mode, you can select some other time zone and have that down here while your local time in analog is up there. UTC kind of by default, but if I wanted to, I can scroll ahead using this button down here. It's as though I'm going eastward on the map, and you can see the other time zones being highlighted right there in the LCD map as I move this around. And if I wanted to, there's an easy way to take, well, let's see, I've got Guam there. What if I wanted to quickly swap Guam with my local time zone here and just make Guam my main T1 time zone? All I have to do is press these two top buttons at the same time, and you see how it switched. So now my world time zone is Denver, and up here the analog display has changed to the local time in Guam. Or I can switch that back just that easily as well. So that's a nice way to do that. I tend to leave this on UTC for my world time. I don't have to, but that's just kind of my habit. And there I go. Now my next mode, if I press mode here, is the alarm mode. And this has 5 alarms plus an hourly signal. So you can scroll through those alarms just with this search button down here and hourly signal. So right now I've got the hourly signal turned on, and up here it says SIG, indicating that the hourly signal is going to beep every hour on the hour. I can turn that off by pressing the adjust button right here, and now that's off. On, off. And you see that up there, it's going to say SIG. And as I change to other modes, it's still going to show me that the signal is active. So, okay, let me take it back here. And let's just play with one of these alarms. So alarm 1, 6:45 a.m., but it's off. So that would be the time that it would make a sound if it were on. If I want to turn it on, I tap the adjust button. And this is nice. It says 1 on. And what that means is that at 6:45, the next time it reaches 6:45, the alarm will sound and then it will go to off automatically. So it's a one-time alarm if I do that. But if I press this again, it just says on. So that means it'll go every day. But it's kind of nice to know you can have some alarms that go every day, and some alarms, if you want it to go just once and not repeat the next day, just set it to, well, either off there, or set it to the one-time mode, one time on. And whenever any of the alarms is set to go, or is made active, then ALM will show up here in this window here. But if I turn that off, see, that goes away, turn that on, even if it's the one-time on, it'll remind me that yes, an alarm is ready to go. All right, my next mode is a countdown timer. And when it's in all zeros like this, it becomes a true 24-hour countdown timer. And I use this button down here to start the countdown. So hours, minutes, seconds, and tenths of a second. That's kind of nice. Or, of course, if I wanted to, I could reset that. And if I hold the adjust button down, I can change that to some other value that I want. I can go hours, minutes, and even seconds. So if I wanted, a countdown timer that only lasted, say, 30 seconds, I could zero everything out, except down here I could say, 30, and that's what that would do. So very versatile countdown timer. I like that. And the next mode, of course, is stopwatch mode. And this is fairly straightforward. If you're used to using digital watches and, stopwatches on any of your digital watches, they're probably going to work almost exactly the same as this. So if I push this button down here, it would start the stopwatch. Hours, minutes, seconds, and hundredths of a second. This button up here, marked adjust, will actually give me my split time or lap time on that while the counter is still running in the background. And if I push that again, you see it's still going. If I push this button down here again, it will stop the stopwatch. And this one up here on the left side will reset the stopwatch. So again, this is the same functions. Buttons do the same thing as the corresponding buttons on one of these round ones. I just thought I'd show you how it works the same way, no matter which of these watches you're using. So if you know how to use this one, then you know how to use this one, and vice versa. Okay, and then if I press mode again, very simply, I'm back to my regular timekeeping mode, my home screen. And again, every time I switched modes and did all these other things, this analog clock up here was showing the selected home time zone for T1. All right, so that's almost everything. Just one more thing I want to show you. If I hold this mode button down for just a few seconds, just watch me here. Okay, eventually it beeped, and then up here in the display it says mute. And so even though I don't have the microphone pointed at the watch, as I was pushing buttons to change modes and do all kinds of things, you were probably hearing lots of beeps whenever I pushed the buttons. And see, now those are all silent because up there it says mute. So in order to change that to mute or reactivate the sounds, all I do is hold the mode button for a few seconds, and it will, go back and forth from mute to not mute. Now, even when that is in mute, it's still going to make a sound for the alarms. And if I turn on the hourly signal, it's still going to make that sound. And it's still going to make a sound at the end of a countdown timer. It's just not going to make a sound every time I switch modes or every time I start and stop the stopwatch. So just keep that in mind. So if you want to be a little bit more discreet, you like to press buttons a lot on your watch when you're, in a church meeting or a board meeting or somewhere where you don't want to make a lot of noise, just go ahead and mute that, and you can discreetly use your watch in just about any situation. Then I just wanted to show you the light function. This is not the ideal way to demonstrate this, but if I press this light button here, that's what the light looks like on this square version of the watch. That's pretty good. It looks like a couple little lights down here in the bottom corners, but it lights up the face pretty well, and I like that. Whereas with this round one, if I push the light button, it looks like there's just one light lighting up from that one corner. And, it still works pretty well. If you're in the dark, you can see that pretty well. But I guess this one here is a little bit more impressive. And really, honestly, that's about all there is to say about these watches. You will find these to be very affordable. Even this nice one here with all the metal on it, you can easily find this for under $30 if you shop around just a little bit. Maybe even down closer to $20 if you're really careful about how you shop. These other ones also should be less than $30, probably closer to $20 each. I found all of these at my local Walmart store and was able to find them, especially when they were discounted or on closeout or those sorts of deals. I managed to get these for about $10 each when they were on closeout at Walmart. And even at normal prices, places like Amazon and stuff, you should easily find these somewhere between, say, $16 and $20 if you're just a little bit careful about the shopping. So just a few different color variations. These round ones, you can find these with kind of a metal looking case and bracelet similar to this in the round shape. So anyway, nice solid watch, inexpensive, affordable, and really a good timekeeper. And also that 10-year battery life is that's a plus there too. So I would highly recommend any of these just to have around as a go-to watch for any situation, and you don't have to worry about too much about it being a super expensive watch that you might worry about. All right, so there you go for today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you will join me again soon for another new episode of The Good Timekeeping Show.